Hi, Mark here. Last April 8th we planted these candy onions. It's a hybrid, day neutral. As long as the greens stay good and healthy, they'll keep growing and bulbing up good for us. They're doing pretty good. This is July 15th, so that's been about, let's see, about 14 weeks. 3 months, yeah. And doing pretty good here. Most of them are growing quite well. So you can see down the row, I think I had about 100 plants, did I say, in this? And anyway, over the course of trying to grow bigger and better onions, came across a fella, LDS Prepper. We'll put his link to him down below. He recommended, actually he found it somewhere else, to cut the tops of the onions as they started to grow. What you do is you let them go, plant your onions, let them go about 12 inches or so, and then you cut the greens halfway. The idea being that the bulb, instead of making energy for the leaves, will put more energy into growing the bulb. You do that about 3 times during the course of the life of the onion. You let them grow up and get a little higher the next time, maybe 18, 20 inches, cut them in half, and then do that once more afterwards. Well, I did that, and my experience is that it did not work quite as planned. As you can see, this first row, I'll put my fist down here to get some idea. Don't have any tennis balls or anything around here. These are the onions that I did not cut the tops off of. The second row, the tops were cut off. Third row, did not cut the tops. And then the fourth row over there, we cut the tops. So it's every other row I cut the tops, and the other 2 rows I didn't. That way, everything should be pretty even as far as the soil and the moisture and whatever. Got T-tape in there. It's a drip line. Important to keep your onions evenly moist throughout the growing season. Don't want it to dry out or they'll go dormant, and then restart growing and you'll have some problems. As you can see, I think this first row of onions look a lot bigger, most of them. Let's see, we'll try to bring that in a little better here. First row, uncut. Second row, cut. Third row, uncut. And then if you can see back there, the fourth row, those were cut. Now all the onions are fine, and they're overall doing pretty good. I would not recommend cutting your onions. It did not work for me. I'm going to put another website down there, a guy by the name of Bruce Frasier. He's with Dixondale Farms. They're experts at growing onions. They grow onions and sell them. He's got some good videos on growing onions, what to do, fertilizing them, and all that. He's got a really interesting one that explains, I think, what happened here as far as cut and uncut leaves go. He doesn't mention that, but he explains that each one of these leaves that you see growing out of an onion actually corresponds to one of the rings inside the onion. So a good healthy leaf is going to be putting energy down to make a good healthy ring, onion ring. So I guess it stands, if you think about it, you want the leaves to stay nice and healthy. You don't want to chop them off because now you're losing energy that would normally be produced in the leaf to make a nice onion ring. So my experience is do not cut your onions if you see that on the internet. Just leave them grow naturally, and they should do just fine. If they're not getting big or whatever, there's probably some other problem. I've had problems with onions. A new problem I've had this year, I'm going to show you this, I've never had this happen on onions before, is powdery mildew. They call it powdery mildew. There is another name for it on onions. It's not your typical powdery mildew. And we'll see if we can find some in here. We'll just walk around this way. And here's a pretty good example here. Okay, notice how these leaves are dying back. They shouldn't be. They should be. Here's some onions that were more or less unaffected. Leaves are still growing nice and tall. Look pretty green. They got a few little specks on them. There is at first I thought maybe it was thripes. There's some kind of onion thripe or something that'll get in the leaves. You can't hardly see them. But that's not what it was. I have this powdery mildew on there. We'll put the actual name. Let's see if we can get a little closer here without shaking it up too much. And that's kind of what it looks like. If you look real close on the edge, you can see it looks a little fuzzy. Kills off the leaf. I'll have to harvest these sooner than I think I wanted to. You don't want that to really migrate down into the bulb. These are still going to be just fine. They're doing pretty good. So that's the story on our candy onions that we planted last April. Doing pretty good. Remember, I had been putting a plastic tunnel over them. And let's pull one of these out of here. This one, the leaves are... Okay, we'll pull one out of here. This one here, the leaves are pretty well down, about ready to harvest. Normally we'll pull that out, let it dry. You see how big they are, see? Oh, that's not too bad. These should get, if they grew like we would want them to, these babies will get the size of a softball, almost the size of a softball. But this is still, for me and my wife, these are still pretty good sized onions. Big enough to put on a sandwich without having a bunch of little tiny ones slipping out on you. So we're just going to leave this layer and dry out a little bit. I want these tops to dry off before you put them anywhere. Oh, and that's the onion story. Don't cut the tops. Or if you do, don't cut all your tops. Do like I did. Try maybe a half or a third of them and let the rest of them grow, and then see what happens for you. Maybe it'll work for you. It didn't work for me. So, until next time, God bless you.